In this tutorial, we will learn about Showtime. You can access Showtime from stage left by selecting Showtime from the top ribbon. The layout consists of a lower ribbon where you can select a view style, the player tree, which lists all the players and groups configured in the system, and the view panel, where players are loaded for status monitoring. Let's take a closer look at each one of these sections, starting with the player tree. We already touched on the player tree in the beginner's guide, where we demonstrated that you can place players on center stage to move them in manual or position mode. You do so by selecting the player or group. You can select the arrow next to the group to reveal the players that belong to the group. The checkbox next to the players and groups will load the players onto the view panel on the Showtime layout. How it appears in the view depends on which style you have selected in the lower ribbon. We are currently in grid view, where player status icons are equally spaced in rows across the view panel. Showtime provides an easy way to monitor players' overall status. When you are in grid view and satellite view, player status smart icons are used to represent each player checked. The player status smart icon is represented by an animated circle with a square border. The circle's size represents the player's position as seen from the top view of the player. The closer the player is to its maximum position, the bigger the circle will appear in the square border. A circle that touches the rectangular border is at its maximum position. The circle's color represents whether or not a player is a member of a group. This lighter green represents a player that does not belong to a group. All other colors are a group member's assigned color. This allows the user to easily identify players of the same group. The color of the border around the circle is an indication of the status of the player. A gray border indicates that TALOS is offline, or the player is offline or not connected. A green border indicates that the player is online, that there are no faults, and the player is ready to run. A blue border indicates that a player is in motion, and a red border indicates that the player has faulted. This animated warning indicates an overweight or underweight fault. Player status smart icons that have the fuchsia corners represent players currently loaded on center stage. We mentioned that you can load players on center stage by selecting them from the player tree. Additionally, you can select the player's name here on the player status smart icon to load the player on the center stage. This is especially useful if you're in satellite view, where you might know where the player is located but do not know the player's name. We will discuss satellite view next. If you right-click on a player belonging to a VSO2 controller, you can view player parameters. This will display a motor data parameter pop-up showing motor nameplate data and several parameters monitored by the variable frequency drive. While we are still in grid view, I want to review the buttons that are underneath the player tree. Highlight All highlights all the players in the player tree and displays them onto center stage when in manual mode or position mode. Unhighlight All unhighlights all players in the player tree and clears center stage when in manual or position mode. Check All checks all players in the player tree and displays them on the stage left view panel. Uncheck All unchecks all players in the player tree and clears all players from the stage left view panel. Sort Descending sorts the player tree alphabetically from Z to A. Sort Ascending sorts the player tree alphabetically from A to Z. Now let's change to satellite view by selecting the satellite view button in the lower ribbon. Only players that have been placed onto a layout drawing in rehearsal layout can be viewed in Showtime satellite view. Players' status smart icons are displayed on the view panel located in their assigned positions. You can tell which players have been assigned positions by the GPS symbol located next to their name in the player tree. Only players with the GPS symbol can be loaded in satellite view. If I select the checkbox next to their name, the player appears on the satellite backdrop that had been assigned in rehearsal layout. Notice we have the satellite backdrop zoom that allows users to zoom in or out of the selected on-screen layout drawing. To adjust zoom, use the zoom level drop-down or press the zoom in and out buttons. Panning is available at zoom levels above 100%, activated by a left mouse click in the view panel. Pan over to the player you wish to monitor. Right-click on the screen to reset the backdrop. Check our tutorial on rehearsal layout to learn how to assign player positions and backdrops. Last up is table view. In this view, you'll find the player table, perfect for those who prefer a comprehensive overview of all player parameters presented in a standard table format. It includes health status and real-time motion data that continuously updates as players move on center stage. Remember, center stage also keeps you informed with this dynamic information. An additional advantage of this view lies in its sortable columns feature, allowing you to prioritize parameters by positioning them at the top of a table. That does it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.